Carson Wentz threw for 222 yards and 3 touchdowns to help the Philadelphia Eagles beat the Carolina Panthers 2,823 on Thursday night to improve to an NFC Best 51. The Eagles turned 2 interceptions deep in Carolina territory into 15 points, with touchdown passes to Zach Ertz and LeGarrette Blount's 2-point conversion to take an 18-10 lead in the third quarter. Wentz added a 24-yard scoring pass to Nelson Agholor in the fourth quarter. Ertz completed 16 of 29 passes. Cam Newton threw 3 interceptions for Carolina 42. The first 2 interceptions came inside Carolina's 20, but weren't Newton's fault. He was hit by Fletcher Cox as he released one pass, and running back Jonathan Stewart bobbled another pass resulting in a pick. Newton's third interception by Jalen Mills with 306 left ended a chance for the go-ahead score. Carolina had one last shot to win, but turned it over on downs at midfield. Panthers middle linebacker Luke Kuechly was placed into the concussion protocol after his body crumpled following a collision with Eagles pulling guard Brandon Brooks. Kuechly missed 9 games over the past 2 seasons with 2 concussions. All of the Eagles' touchdowns came after Kuechly left the game late in the second quarter. Newton gave the Panthers a 103 lead on his 51st career touchdown rushing in the second quarter. He kept the ball on a read option and juked cornerback Rasul Douglas on the 16-yard run. Douglas got revenge on Carolina's next possession, intercepting Newton's pass after Cox crashed into Newton as he was throwing, causing the ball to float high into the air. No running game. If it hadn't been for Newton, the Panthers would not have had any running game to speak of against the Eagles. Newton ran for 71 yards and the touchdown, but running backs Jonathan Stewart, Christian McCaffrey and Fozzie Whitaker were limited to 1 yard on 13 carries. Peppers milestone. Julius Peppers needed 1 sack to become the 5th player to reach 150 since they became an official statistic in 1982. The 37-year-old Peppers didn't waste any time reaching it, sacking Wentz on the first drive of the game and forcing a fumble. Lineup change. Panthers cornerback Darrell Worley was benched in the first half for Kevin Seymour. Injuries. Eagles linebacker Jordan Hicks left the game early with an ankle injury. Defensive end Brandon Graham briefly left with a shoulder injury. Panthers. Aside from Kuechly's injury, Whitaker was carted to the locker room in the first quarter with a right ankle injury and did not return. Up next, Eagles host the Washington Redskins on Monday Night Football on October 23. Panthers at the Chicago Bears on October 22. Foxborough. It could have been that it was the last question of his press conference on Thursday and he was ready to step down from the podium. It could have been that the answer didn't require much in the way of thought. Whatever the reason, Donta Hightower was quick to reply when I asked if he was happy with where he was physically after playing in 2 games, a loss to the Panthers and a win over the Bucs following a 2-game absence due to an MCL injury. No, he said without hesitation. Instead of dwelling on the state of his conditioning, however, Hightower highlighted the fact time lost for him was a missed opportunity to work with teammates, especially the new ones, and develop alongside them. I mean, just missing time like that is time that I'm not going to get back, time that I missed on the field with my teammates, that chemistry that I missed, he said, but my experience in the defense helps me a little bit more than most. Every rep that I can get, whether it's in there with Dietrich Wise, or Adam Butler, or Cassius Marsh, or just guys that I'm not in there with, I take full advantage of that. Even today watching film, I got the new guys right around me, so we're all talking and we're communicating and we're trying to progress as a defense. It's not a one-man thing. We're not depending on one person or anything like that. We're only as good as our weakest link, so we're just trying to keep everybody as sharp as we can. Hightower played in a season-high 62 of 72 snaps in Tampa Bay. Against the Panthers 5 days prior, he played in 37 of a possible 63. That he saw as much playing time as he did on short rest is an indication that A, his knee was feeling strong, and B, the coaching staff felt it needed him on the field for almost 90% of the team's defensive plays. Hightower responded with what looked like fresh legs, moving with good energy and without any obvious limitations. It wasn't a perfect night, but he recorded 4 quarterback hurries and made a key run stop in the third quarter that helped force a Bucs punt. Last Thursday's steady workload for Hightower was a notable change from what had been a herky-jerky beginning to the 2017 season for the 27-year-old. He spent the early portion of training camp on the physically unable to perform list, and he did not play in the preseason. Once he got going, he had the carpet ripped out from under him in the form of a Chiefs defender falling on his leg during the season opener. By week 4 he was healthy enough to be trusted in critical situations. He sacked Cam Newton late in the fourth quarter to force a punt and allow the Patriots an opportunity to tie, but he was far from a full-time player. Just a few days later, though, Hightower was ready for more work. And after spending the vast majority of his snaps on the edge in weeks 1 and 4, Hightower was plopped back into the middle of things field for the Patriots in Tampa, which may have helped iron out whatever communication problems the team had against Carolina the week before. I think communication is on me whether I'm on the ball or not, but it's definitely a lot easier being in the middle, he said. Being on the edge is kind of on an island. Last week was great on the ball or off the ball. I think in the linebacker room with me, KV, Kyle Van Noy, Marquis Flowers, David Harris and Landon Roberts, I think we've done a good job as far as trying to grow the front seven, the back end as far as communication and how we go about that. That helped last week, so hopefully we'll just continue to build on that. Half the time it was us misaligned in WASNT communication, so if we can nip that in the bud and stop ourselves from shooting ourselves in the foot, that'll be big. It will be worth watching to see if Hightower continues to see time in the middle, a move his former teammate Jared Mayo had been clamoring for on Quick Slants, the podcast against the Jets. The two-time captain's presence, and his voice, carries weight with teammates when it comes time to make adjustments at the line. And when the press-snap conversations are brief or one-sided, that helps the Patriots play faster, Hightower explained. Last week was a lot faster and a lot more aggressive, he said. If we were able to communicate and talk and get all of that stuff out of the way, then we're able to play faster. It shouldn't have to come to that. It should be that every play. Like I said, we're building, hopefully. It's a little later than we'd like to, but there's no time like the present. Hightower could say the same for himself. It's a little later than he'd like to be hitting his stride, but it looks like he's getting close. A federal appeals court cleared the way Thursday for the NFL to impose a 6-game suspension on Dallas Cowboys star Ezekiel Elliott over domestic violence allegations, siding with the league in the latest high-profile fight over its ability to punish players for off-field behavior. In a 21 decision, the 5th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals panel in New Orleans granted the league's emergency request to set aside an injunction and ordered a district court in Texas to dismiss Elliott's case. The NFL announced that the suspension was effective immediately, though further appeals were possible and the Cowboys are not playing this weekend. We are currently exploring all of our legal options and will make a decision as to what is the best course of action in the next few days, Elliott attorney Frank Salzano said. The Cowboys don't play again until next Sunday, October 22, at San Francisco. If Elliott's legal team can't put the suspension on hold again, he won't be eligible to play until November 30 at home against Washington, a Thursday night game the week after Thanksgiving. Elliott played the first 5 games as Dallas went 23 in a disappointing start. A federal judge in Texas issued the injunction blocking the suspension last month, agreeing with NFL Players Union attorneys who argued that the investigation of the allegations in Ohio and a subsequent appeal were unfair to Elliott, one of the league's standout running backs. The NFL countered that it followed procedures under the league's labor deal and that the union improperly filed a lawsuit before the appeals process was complete. The most likely destination for further legal challenges from Players Union attorneys representing Elliott is with the Southern District of New York. The NFL filed in that federal court after Elliott's appeal through the league was denied by arbitrator Harold Henderson last month. Last year's NFL rushing leader as a rookie, Elliott was suspended in August by Commissioner Roger Goodell after the league concluded following a year-long investigation that he had several physical confrontations in the summer of 2016 with Tiffany Thompson, his girlfriend at the time. Prosecutors in Columbus, Ohio, decided not to pursue the case in the city where Elliott starred for Ohio State, citing conflicting evidence. Elliott's legal team filed the lawsuit on his behalf in the Eastern District of Texas before Henderson had rejected the appeal. The Fifth Circuit agreed with the NFL's claim that the filing was premature. The procedures provided for in the collective bargaining agreement between the NFL and NFLPA were not exhausted, Judges Jennifer Ilrod and Edward Prado wrote for the majority. The parties contracted to have an arbitrator make a final decision. That decision had not yet been issued. In dissent, Judge James Graves disagreed that the suit was filed prematurely. Graves noted the union's argument that the league had violated the collective bargaining agreement because key information had been withheld from Goodell and Elliott's representatives before the suspension was ordered and the arbitrator's decision was based on incomplete information. The suit was properly filed in the district court because the arbitration process called for in the labor deal was not properly followed, Graves argued. The NFL had already agreed to let Elliott play in the opener before his request for an injunction was granted by U.S. District Judge Amos Mazant in Sherman, north of Dallas. Henderson ruled against Elliott the same day Mazant heard arguments over the injunction. Gabe Feldman, director of the sports law program at Tulane University Law School, noted that the opinion dealt only with jurisdictional issues and not the question of whether the NFL's appeals process was unfair to Elliott. This is certainly a significant setback, Feldman said. But they still have a chance because this decision was not made on the merits of the case. He has yet to have a federal court rule against him on the merits. Until that happens, he still has a chance. Elliott, who set a Dallas rookie franchise record with 1,631 yards rushing last season, is fourth in the NFL with 393 yards this year. He had a season-high 116 yards in a 3,531 loss to Green Bay on Sunday. If the case shifts to federal court in New York, home to league headquarters and the site of Elliott's appeal hearing with Henderson, the venue is a familiar one. The NFL won the Deflategate decision in the New York court, leading to New England quarterback Tom Brady serving his 4-game suspension a year after it was originally imposed. A federal judge had put Brady's suspension on hold.